So let's see, we're starting a new series this week. You know, it's September, and September at Unity on the North Shore, there is always an incredible focus on prayer. Well, actually on the whole Unity movement, right? This week is World Day of Prayer, and if you haven't already checked out the website to look at the amazing lineup of activities that we've created, licensed Unity teacher Candace Lucas has done an amazing job pulling together stuff, and some of you have created videos that we're going to be using, but just a real focus on prayer, much as Vivian shared with us in today's Daily Word. And also at Unity on the North Shore in September, our prayer chaplain team every year recommits or re-ups for their work to serve our congregation with their prayer energy and their prayer work. So what I love about that is that it truly demonstrates the transformational aspect of Unity's take on prayer. Unity has, most of you are fully aware that Unity has a very unique approach to prayer, which we've termed affirmative prayer. And it really arises out of our co-founder Myrtle Fillmore's experience with it. Most of you know this story, but if you've already heard it, I invite you just to listen in for maybe a different nuance, because part of what I want to talk about today is the journey of our own prayer experience and our own prayer life. We all know that that awakening is a process, right? We don't wake up one day and suddenly we are masters at this stuff. We are continuing to evolve and grow. And so each year as our chaplains move through this experience, the syllabus largely stays the same, but because of the deep work that they've done over the past year, each of them is at a different place in consciousness. And so there's a renewal not only of their commitment, but also of their own sort of passion and their own understanding of prayer's role in their lives and how they're going to bring that level of prayer consciousness into their service to all of us. So I think they're a beautiful model for what's happening in all of us. It's just that through this prayer chaplain program that it's very intentional and it's pretty intense. They go through a good deal of training over the course of these next few weeks in September. So that they're sort of leading the way for all of us, but it's a process that each and every one of us undertakes in a lifetime of spiritual growth and evolution. So what I want to talk about today is what that looks like in terms of maybe stages that might help us or serve as barometers for sort of calibrating where we are in consciousness at any particular moment with any of our prayers. Does that make sense? I think it's kind of fun, and I have to apologize. The model that I'm going to use, I think it was Greg Braden's, but I couldn't find it this morning. So if I mention it and you know that it was someone else who introduced these ideas or concepts, would you just put that in the chat stream so that everybody's aware that of where the original source is for this? But essentially, it's kind of a leveling of consciousness, and it's an understanding that we bring to the language that we use for prayer and the energetic sort of vibration that we bring to our prayer experience. And sort of the four levels on this continuum that I want to talk about are: first, it's captured by to me, right? It's an attitude that life happens to me. If we move up sort of the scale of energetic vibrational prayer energy, the next level would be by me. So first, the world is happening to me. At the by me level, we recognize that, oh, wow, I do have some influence, right? The prayers that I speak do make a difference in the way that I show up in the world and the way that Spirit's activity supports me in the world. So to me, by me. The third stage is through me. This is where we begin to recognize and embrace this notion that the activity God is always available to us, and it happens through me, by the energy that I hold, by the intentions that I set. Arises a sort of connection to divine intelligence and divine wisdom that actually helps me to embody it in a greater way in the world. So to me, by me, through me, and then at the sort of the highest level, at least in this model, it's as me. So this is an understanding and even an experience of being able to show up in our prayer experience, knowing that we actually are a part of that presence and energy of the divine, so that it's our energy that makes the difference when we start to apply a spiritual understanding and spiritual awareness and spiritual principles to our world. So those sort of four, I would call them what? almost like milestones as we move through up the scale of vibrational energy and prayer energy. Those are beautiful ways that we can kind of maybe have a greater awareness of the energy that we're bringing to our prayer experience, so that we can begin to up-level it, so that we can come from a higher level of consciousness as we move through it. The other point that I want to make about this continuum is, and I talked about this a couple of weeks ago when I had an experience where I thought, ooh, I'd reached this aha moment and now I was going to show up in this masterful way no matter what. That doesn't really happen. You know, we move through our lives, and our emotional makeup, the thoughts that we're thinking, the circumstances around us all have an impact on the level of awareness and consciousness that we bring to any situation, right? So the to me end, you can be masterful in your spiritual practice and still encounter some kind of experience where you're really approaching it through that to me kind of level of consciousness, where life is happening to me and I'm kind of at the mercy of that energy, you know? I think of it very often as like a victim way of showing up, that it's happening to me, oh God. The prayer that arises out of that, because it generally tends to be fear and lack based, and the prayer that arises, it tends to be kind of a please God help me. The title of my talk was moving from beseeching level of prayer energy up to believing. This is the beseeching. We're begging, we're pleading, anything to get me out of this kind of environment. And I have a kind of personal example of that from years ago. You may have heard it before, but again, maybe you're in a different spot, so it might hit you in a different awareness this time around. But back in the days when I was enrolled in ministerial school, you know, I moved to Kansas City, Missouri, and was blessed to be able to move in with a classmate who had a finished basement. So for the first year I was in ministerial school, I occupied this basement and was very grateful for it, although coming from California, Laguna Beach, where I saw the ocean every day, where it was always sunny and wonderful, by about January or February, the basement in Missouri, it was leaking because I was just in a completely different environment. And it was a point in the ministerial education where we were really sort of breaking down our own beliefs so that we could make way for new. So it was a really intense time. And I can remember one night in particular where I was really questioning, what in the heck have I done? How did I land here? Spirit, what am I doing? I left good relationships and a good job, and why did I leave that behind for this? You know, it was one of those nights. And I can remember literally begging, please God, take the pain in my heart away in this moment. And I fell asleep kind of tearfully. And that was the only access at that point that I had to prayer. That was the highest calibration of prayer that I could access in that moment, right? So there are times in our lives when we end up back in that it's happening to me kind of energy. And if that's where we are, that's where we are. You know, don't make that wrong or bad. Just reach out to Spirit and engage it however we can. But also know that in that experience, there will be a time when we can come from a higher vibration level to affirm it. The other thing I want to say about this to me energy right now is there's a lot of to me, it's happening to me energy happening in the field right now, in the field of politics, in the field of civics, in the field of racial justice. There's a lot of to me, even among us Unity students, right? There's a lot of please God, make sure that our guy wins. There's a lot of please God, we don't want it to go on the way it has been. That's to me energy. That's victim energy, and we have an opportunity to, you know, sort of engage that and rise above it into another level. But first, we have to be aware that that's what's happening with us, right? So if you find yourself in a space of anxiousness or fearfulness about what the future might hold, or anxiety, just recognize that, ooh, I'm coming from that to me energy. And I have a choice, you know, there's a possibility for me to come from a higher level of understanding. That's not about it's happening to me, but maybe I can move up to that next level and recognize that it also happens by me, right? And that point, the pleading and the beseeching, when we get to the by me level, might take form as more of an asking, like, oh, Spirit, here's the situation. But see the difference, the language might not change that much. What changes is the energy behind the language. So in the request, it might be that in the ask that I have, dear God, I'm affirming or holding that divine order prevails in, I'm going through a renovation at my house right now. So you know how that can be kind of chaotic, right? But I can affirm that divine order prevails. And I can come from that from a to me level of like, oh, why is stuff going wrong? Why is it taking longer? Why is it costing so much? That's all to me energy, right? I can hold those same questions, but in a by me environment, what happens is I'm affirming divine order. I'm asking that divine order prevails. And it's coming from a level of like expectancy, like assurance that I know that Spirit's been active in my life and other times when I was going through challenge or anxiety or fear. And so I fully expect that that same energy is going to rise so that I'll experience that in this as well. Right? The difference is the energetic vibration we bring to it. We can still be asking, you know, it's kind of like the Santa Claus God. I was at a block party yesterday, and one of the songs that was sung was Joni Mitchell's "Lord, won't you buy me a Mercedes-Benz?" Right? That's kind of an ask me energy. It's not, oh, I gotta have it or my life's gonna end, but there's a desire there. It's a little bit of a material desire, but it's coming from a different vibrational level than I'm victim. Right? We've upped the bar a little bit, and we're moving to a place where we're coming from what unity and unity's perspective would regard as a more effective prayer. There's a wonderful book written by Francis Fawkes, F-A-U-K-L-S, that talks specifically about the efficacy of prayer, how we can pray effectually, so that there's a real impact, a transformational impact to it. Francis Fawkes is beautiful at sort of giving language to that. So that's what happens when we move into the by me. So we're rising up out of victim to recognizing that, wow, I have this opportunity to ask, and in my asking, the expectation that I'm holding actually helps to bring it into manifestation. It's a higher level of consciousness, right? So then as we move up this paradigm into the next level, it becomes through me. It's where we recognize that actually the activity of Spirit happens through me as I open myself to being present to it. You know, as I can sort of, and you know, in unity in our prayer work, we sometimes use denials and affirmation. So if I deny the power of fear or anxiety to really affect how I'm going to show up, then I can come at it from the space of through me. This is an opportunity for me to allow the activity of Spirit working through me, arising from up within my own awareness, to change the consciousness that I bring to the situation. So then I actually become sort of one with that energy, that creative source, that creative environment that's going to bring about a different level of manifestation. So to me, by me, through me, and then ultimately the highest level is as me. And that's where, what I want to suggest is, as I'm describing these, you may be like trying to peg yourself, like, okay, most of the time I'm at this level, or most of the time I'm at this level. And what I invite you to consider is, no matter who you are, there are points in your life and your journey where you will be functioning at all of these levels. So if you're sitting there now thinking like, oh God, as me, yeah, like I am showing up, the Spirit of God is functioning as me, that I'm one with that. If that feels like too high a bar, what I want to suggest to you is that you have already accomplished that at some point in your life. I want you to think about the impact that you have, right? Maybe there is a point where you were coming from a place of centeredness and peace, and you were walking in the middle of some kind of argument or some kind of disagreement or some kind of conflict. And yet, rather than being drawn up in that, the calmness that you brought into it actually shifted the energy of the room. That's showing up at an as-me level of consciousness. You're moving into it from a place of love and centeredness, from not being distracted by all of the stuff that coulda, shoulda, woulda been, but you're there with a sense of confidence and a sense of presence that other people feel and experience. I just want to, okay, I want to see gallery view, and I'm going to ask folks to raise their hands. Those of you with your cameras on, have you had that experience where your impact walking into a room, you could change the dynamic of the energy in that room? Who can sort of say that? Right, you are functioning in that experience as the power of God, right? That's available to all of us as we sort of step into greater levels of maturity and mastery, right? So we all operate at all of those. Obviously, the goal is to move into a level of consciousness that most of the time we're functioning at the highest level on that paradigm. But that's to say, wherever you are, if your access point is that, please, God, take this pain away, that's the access point that you're at that moment. And go ahead and row with it. You know, any ship and any port in a storm is sort of my theory around which level we pray at. But also know that you have the capacity, you have already demonstrated and become an example of the love and the power and the justice of God functioning in the world just by your own experience. So keep those two like as bookends, and then just know that as you move through life, you're going to encounter it at different levels, and your prayer the prayer that you bring to it will be affected by that. Yes? So here's an example of sort of at the other end, just in case you're like so worried that, oh God, I could never be as much of a spiritual master as, say, Jesus the Christ is. Yeah? Think about even Jesus, right? Even Jesus, in the midst of crucifixion, so in the midst of dying to the current condition, in the midst of the pain and the agony of all that, even Jesus cries out, Lord, take this cup away from me. That's a to me victim level prayer. Even Jesus experiences that kind of hardship. Even his prayers sometimes come out of that energy. And at the other end of the spectrum, I would invite you to think of Mary, of the Virgin Mary, right? Think about her reaction and her response when the angel Gabriel has just come and delivered the news that she is this single mom pregnant in a culture that would stone her to death. And her response in that environment is, my soul magnifies the Lord, right? That's as me energy. So we all have access to the full spectrum, whether or not we realize it, whether or not we fully understand it. That potential is available to all of us. Yes? So I think that's all I got at this point. It's like, so as you're moving through your own prayer journey, as you're sort of paying attention to the language that you're using and the energetic vibration you're bringing to it, just remember that as you open your heart to it, as you become more available, more receptive to that presence and power, that you actually move up this sort of scale, this paradigm of prayer consciousness. So that from beseeching, even if you're in that space for a moment, you can move into this point, the point of believing and knowing for sure that it is already done in the invisible realm. And that energy actually has an impact far beyond your own experience, and others in your life will begin to experience that as well. Yeah. So what I'd like to do now is move into a time of meditation. And Megan has a beautiful song that sort of creates an opening so that we can be present, fully present in a space of receptivity. So Megan, if you would, please.
I breathe in and out. I breathe out and let go. And I know in my heart that's the right place to start. I breathe, just breathe. I breathe in to be. I breathe out and see what is true, right and real. I'm alive, I am healed. I breathe, just breathe.
And so now as we continue to settle more deeply into this wonderful energy that Megan has created for us, I invite you to continue breathing. And just in terms of awareness, see if your breath doesn't deepen as you relax into this time. If the inhale isn't a little bit fuller, and if the exhale isn't a little bit more complete. There's nothing you have to do to manipulate it. Just see if that happens naturally as you begin to relax fully. One of the ways in which we're able to kind of expand our capacity to be present to the inclusive power of God, to the through me power of God, is to shift up the ways that we access it. So what I invite you to do now is, whatever your current resting, prayerful position is in terms of your physical body and your posture, switch that up a little bit. Maybe you sit with your hands folded. This morning I'd ask you to open your palms and simply be present. Or you can place your hands over your heart through this meditation and just change the physical posture. Notice if it feels a little bit strange or a little bit weird. But as you stick with that, it actually is excellent conditioning for moving into a new understanding or a new level of vibration or a different level of comfort with how you pray. And so I invite you, as you're noticing what's happening in your physical body and what might be happening in your thinking and believing about holding this different posture, I invite you to just remember that there is one presence and one power, regardless of how we experience it, regardless of how we define it or understand it. It expresses in new ways. It expresses in ways that maybe we haven't experienced or fully been aware of before. And as we remember that in this moment, we're reminded that in every moment, this same capacity, this same ability to reach beyond what's comfortable, to reach to that next level of understanding and vibrational consciousness, is always available to us. Once we become aware of a situation that maybe has us in a fearful state of mind, just being aware of that fearful state of mind and being willing to be with the discomfort of that actually opens the door to moving up to the next level of consciousness. So wherever you are right now, I would just invite you to consider that that's exactly the process that we're in the midst of right now. Wherever your current level of consciousness is, we are shifting and moving into a higher vibrational conditioning that we might more fully embody the divine, the one power and presence that we know underlies all of creation. So gently now, I invite you to just pay attention to the physical sensations, to the emotional feelings, and through the quality or the caliber of your thoughts, as we spend just a few minutes allowing this energy to up-level our current experience, up-level our current prayer consciousness. And as if you were gently climbing a ladder, just step by step, just allow that experience, each breath, to take you higher. In the silence, rise. And now, as we prepare to bring this time of meditation to a close, I would invite you to return your attention to the physical, the emotional, the mental sensations you may be experiencing. And we give thanks for the understanding that regardless of the level of consciousness that we approach any situation, Spirit is ever present as a power to uplift us and inspire us and strengthen us. Centered in that energy, we remember that all things truly are possible. So it is, and so we let it be. Amen. Hey, thanks for watching this YouTube video. If Unity's message of positive spiritual living resonates with you, I hope you'll subscribe to our channel so you can stay up to date on other lessons as we post them. Also, if you're able to support us financially in the work that we do in the world, please check below for contact information. You can visit our website, find more about what programming we offer, as well as how to give. Blessings.